Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to embark on a journey like no other. Welcome to the Glum Lot Podcast,
your go-to destination for a unique blend of recovery and discovery.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Mark. And in this podcast, we will endeavor to create a safe and uplifting space for our guests and listeners to share their stories with sincerity and a touch of humor.
Remember, we are not a Glum Lot. The Glum Lot Podcast is more than just a source of entertainment. It's a beacon of hope, proving that even in the darkest moments, recovery is possible. Every story we share carries the power to inspire positive change.
So buckle up, get ready to listen, and join us in discovering the strength that lies within every individual's journey. This is the Glum Lot Podcast, where humor meets hope. Hey, Brett.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, how many alcoholics does it take to screw in a light bulb? Just one. The alcoholic holds the light bulb and waits for the world to revolve around him.
What a segue into what I was just thinking
about.
Yeah,
baby.
You know,
what is that?
I'm
what is
habitually a thinker.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's constant. But, I remember drinking and being in social settings, and boy, was I good at solving the world's problems. Everybody had to listen to my ideas, my solutions to everything that's bad or poor, or how I can make things better, even for you.
That's
right?
great. You know, how many of the world's problems have been solved from a bar stool?
Oh,
like zero, because it gets talked about, but nothing ever gets acted on.
That's right.
So,
when I came into the rooms and I came into this program, I was very quickly told, because I was, especially in the beginning, I had 30 days under my belt as a pro.
Yeah.
And anybody knew that came in, I've got salvation for you, right?
Yeah, follow me.
Yeah. And then out of the corner, of course, from an old timer, you need to get out of yourself.
Right.
And how important that is.
It is 100% important.
I can't imagine you've ever been told to get out of yourself.
I have quite a few times. The thing about it is this, the self, the ego, the thinking, our own thinking that got us, where we are. All those things need to be changed.
Yeah.
We need that psychic change. Well, psychic obviously is of the mind. So we need to literally need to change our mind to some degree anyway. And for me, that involves getting out of myself. And what I like to say is I need to get out of my own way. And what that actually means is not only get out of my own thinking, but I have to get out of acting on that thinking. In other words, don't do what I think.
Right.
Wait, pause, think about it, talk to somebody, then act.
Yeah, because even getting out of yourself can mean those intrusive thoughts as I was laying in bed thinking, man, this is never going to get better. I'm going to lose my family. Mm-hmm. It's all this person's fault. So I had to stop living in my head.
Yeah.
And those things that seemed to, I thought they would definitely come true.
Yeah.
And, that just...
And I've always heard people say 99% of what I think is going to happen bad to me never happens.
Oh, yeah.
Yet I spend all that time not only thinking it, but feeling it.
It's a direct result of living in the future.
Yeah, feeling those toxic feelings in my body that make me uncomfortable. So, yeah, it's important to change the way that you think and act. And, the serenity prayer kind of sums it up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and then another one, I had mentioned in another one of our discussions that an old timer usually sets me straight. And I'll never forget this phrase, do not go upstairs without adult supervision, too.
Right. Yep.
So whenever I start doing that and catch myself doing it, I got to get out of myself and get into a conversation with another alcoholic.
Yep. And, the serenity prayer says you can accept it or change it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people would say, well, that's great, but I don't know what to do. And that's where the wisdom comes in. Yeah. And grant me the wisdom. That doesn't mean it's going to come from the ether, although sometimes it comes from yourself. It can come from someone else.
There you go.
It can come from bringing up a topic.
Yep.
And then you can make a decision. Am I going to have to work on accepting this, or am I going to work on changing it?
And there goes again. We work through problems now.
Yep. So I'd like to work through another guest.
I would too.
Yeah?
That sounds wrong, however.
It does. Let's change that. I want to welcome another guest.
That's much better.
Yeah.
I was thinking some puppet with a hand. Anyways.
No.
Yeah.
Hey, so let's welcome Steve.
Yeah, let's welcome.
Come on, Steve.
Yeah, Steve.
Steve, welcome to the Glum Lot Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So we're going to start off, as we do every episode, with your sobriety date.
June 2020.
June 2020. He sees 2020.
Yeah.
All right, so, hey, you know what? Before we get going, I just wanted to do a new segment. I'm going to call it Listener Mail. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we actually got an email. For those
Let me
out
guess.
there, we have an email. It is the glumlotpodcast@gmail.com, and we received an email.
What? Our first
from
one.
a guy named Marty.
My wingman.
And Marty says, my brother says he'll be on your podcast. I just want to say I'm in my 10th month of recovery. Thanks to Steve, I have a sponsor, but he's my second sponsor. He knows how to handle the rough and rowdy newcomers like me. Thanks, I'll be tuning in, formerly known as Marty Potty.
Yeah.
And does he live in Boston?
Yes, he does. Just
Okay.
outside. He's my wingman for all the years. He'll come up a couple times tonight, I'm sure.
Okay, good. So let's start at the beginning. Your first drink, your first experience with alcohol.
Well, there's a couple of them. I think the very first one was, the altar boy, right? We sneak in the priest wine.
Oh.
The other guys would walk out, and I'd go back to the cabin again. I don't know if that was alcoholic thinking or
Or you
just...
just really love the sacraments.
Yeah, that was it, right? So we had access to free wine. It was the worst stuff in the world, but I can remember being by myself there, so I'm not showing off or anything, and hitting that cabinet. But the real first time that I know I had effect on me was probably 9th grade. Carlos's birthday party. Mom dropped us off. I met Carlos in Spanish class. He's from Spain. So during his birthday, he got A's. So during his birthday, his mom brought down sangrias. Now, these were real red wine sangrias. And I can remember chasing her back upstairs. You bringing more?
Wow.
You bringing more? She goes, yeah. She brought more down, and I was right there, first in line. Please, please, please.
So it was the feeling. You were
so
chasing
big
it.
the bottle. I was no longer stuck in the corner by myself.
This is
now I'm talking
Can I
to
just
people.
rewind for a second? Did you say you were taking Spanish class with a guy from Spain?
That's right. That was the punchline, yeah. He got an A.
Wow.
Carlos wasn't screwing around.
You know what's funny, though? I speak English, but I didn't get an A in English.
Hell no.
So, all right, anyway, so you get that buzz off the sangria.
I fall asleep in Mom's car on the way home.
And you want more of it, so you fall in love with the feeling, right?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah. Where does it go from there?
Well, through so high school was in two parts, right? Chapter 1 was a private Catholic high school and pretty sheltered.
Yeah.
Chapter 2, my junior year, we pop over to the local public school. Culture shock. I'm accepted because I can get my hands. I'm one of the oldest guys in the class. I'm driving. Nobody else is driving yet.
Okay.
And I could get my hands on all kinds of stuff. And I found that was how you got accepted.
Sure.
In that group of people, and I thought that was cool. And so I started a business there at the high school, and marketing, and we had marketing, and we had quality control, and we had supply chain. We had all kinds of things we had to keep in mind. I always wanted to own my own business, and that was really my first one.
Yeah.
Where I watched all these different components, and then so high school is high school. We drank during high school. My parents, there was always booze, all events, right? Catholic, Irish. There's always, in all the events, baptisms, confirmations, birthday parties.
All the isms.
All the isms, everything. We drank, right? I can remember sneaking, I heard one of your previous guests talk about a whiskey sour fountain.
Yeah.
That brought back some memories.
Yeah, no kidding.
Ding, ding, ding,
It was
ding,
beautiful.
So you're from an Irish family.
ding. Catholic, Irish, French.
Yeah, I heard
Polish.
a good joke about Irish drinking.
Boy, you are on a roll.
Here's the joke: an Irishman walks out of a bar. Okay. Anyway, now that I've
you
made
sit on my hands to
now
keep
that I've
from
made
clapping
my
on that
now
one.
that I've made my ethnic joke. So you're young.
You like God created whiskey? Keep the Irish from running the world.
Okay. I get that.
Yeah.
So you are a young man. You're having a very big social acceptance with drugs and alcohol.
Yep.
You've hit your stride.
Yep.
And
You're very important to people.
But are you at the same time that you're running this little business? Are you also chasing the buzz yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Head weed is overhead, so
Yeah.
have to worry about that. And we had so during high school, we drank, partied every weekend. Listened to music, smoked during school. At that time, you could smoke cigarettes in the school, right?
Right, yeah.
Or out front.
We had a smoking lounge.
Yeah, smoking lounge.
Which
So
is
that was
insane. Now
Even
that
at
you
my
think of it.
young age, we had that.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's
And
crazy.
so I would make
now.
money out there every morning. I would make money out there, right?
Yeah.
So I would take their lunch money and
You're just earning.
yes, I was doing some stuff. And so then, so I always had a car, always had a job or two, always had cash. Life was good. Went on to OCC. Went on to
Local
community college.
Yeah,
Went to a
big deal.
local community college. And my guy that I was buying from, my vendor, the federalities caught up with him. So I got out of the business real quick. And I pretty much stopped smoking about that time. It was also making me goofy in the head.
Yeah,
But drinking
it tends
didn't
to do
stop.
that.
Drinking didn't stop. I mean, I
Okay.
finally got the urge up to ask a girl out for a date. I pick her up. I'm trashed. I get to the bar. I have one more. I'm on the floor.
Great
Out
date.
cold.
Great date.
Yeah, hell of a date.
When can we see each other again?
Seriously.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw her again.
I'm looking for someone who's fall down drunk. That's what,
Yeah, so here I am. What was I, 20 years old maybe? 21.
Yeah.
Back then we could drink.
Yeah. Drinking age was 18. It
Yeah,
was for
just
me,
to age,
too.
just to age myself for everybody.
Yeah, I know that. That's true. So you're getting blackout drunk too?
Apparently passing out drunk.
Passing out drunk.
I don't remember much about my drunks the next morning, whether I was blacked out, brown out, gray out. Most of the times I was drinking, I don't remember what happened too much.
Are you seeing this as a problem or no?
Yeah, I think the first time I really thought it was a problem was my community college and then a state school.
Uh-huh.
And then at the state school, the first semester, like yourself, I think I 0.04 or something like that.
Man, you beat me. I had a 0.1.
Yeah,
They,
yeah.
they felt bad because I did so well in swimming.
I had to
It was
lie
just to wake me
I
up.
lied my butt off to get back in. Oh, I was engaged to be married, and she dumped me.
Right.
and
You
blah,
told a
blah,
big
blah.
sob story, and they were
yeah.
like, "Okay, we'll give you a second chance."
Right.
Did you take advantage of the second chance?
I went back to school, if that's what you mean. So there was a Sunday, everybody was studying, and I went back to the bar we were at on Saturday night, and I can remember waiting for them to open up. And it stunk in there, and it was awful, and the beer was flat because it was sitting in the taps all night.
Yeah.
And I sat there by myself, and I went, "You're a drunk."
Oh,
It's
wow.
like, you're a drunk.
Yeah.
And then, so this progressed throughout, right? So I'm older. I've been drinking for 40 years in my career. And so it's just progressed. And a lot of times I said, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, I'm an alcoholic. Big deal. What am I going to do? I'm going to die drunk.
So you were okay with it at the time.
Yeah.
And you thought it was manageable.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah. So like what you just described from college, you still had decades of drinking
Yep.
ahead. And we know it's a progressive disease. What was that progression like for you?
So I think it was pretty much beer. I went to work for a company, and the guy was training me, and I was riding in the car with him, and he trained me how to drink and drive. We'd stop and get a six-pack, and and he told me to keep the bottle caps in case you get pulled over, you put the bottle caps back on. So I learned that, and then I started drinking and driving quite a bit. And then, the next real progression would be, I guess, I get to my late 40s, early 50s, I start with the dry goods. And that was the beginning of the end right then, because all my money was going that direction. I had a company which I bankrupted. These were taking my life. We couldn't pay the rent, couldn't buy food. I didn't have a vehicle.
Right, now, did you get married during this time? Do you have children? Anything
Oh,
like that?
so going back, let's see, when was it? 87, 88, I got married. 3 kids, I got 3 great kids right now. The oldest is 36, the youngest is 27, thereabouts. And I got good kids, and as long as they don't follow my footsteps,
Right. And so did they feel like they were just growing up in a household with a guy who was a hard worker and a hard drinker?
Well, I consider myself a hard worker, and so therefore you work hard, you can play hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I deserve this. This is my. I work hard. I bring home paychecks. I can do this. But I wasn't home ever. I volunteered my time with other organizations. I coached everything I could possibly coach. Every excuse in the book not to be home.
Are you a daily drinker at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're drinking beer. If the beer was frozen, we put it on the defroster. If the beer was frozen, we put it on the stove. And you can, that guy that emailed you, and he'll tell you all about it. And we would send pictures back and forth. Whoever had the first beer first time in the morning, picture went out to each other. And it's just, it's a competition.
Yeah,
a lot of fun.
This is a way of life.
Yes.
It's an accepted way of life. Now, is this a way of life that you saw when you were growing up?
No, my dad didn't drink a lot in the house. Mom did some, it was on and off, but didn't want to pay attention to them. I had my own ego to wrap myself around, and it was all about me at that time.
Mm-hmm. So what changed?
Obviously,
there was something that happened in your life.
So you always like to say it's a dark position. I got to a really, really dark place in my life.
Yeah.
When I grew up, just one of the first girls I dated, her dad was he was a police officer, and tough job. He always had an open bottle of BV wherever he was. And I used to think, I'm 17 years old, and I'm seeing this. I'm like, well, that's bad. That's not good, man. That's not good. So 5 years ago, I'm sitting in my living room by myself, late at night, watching TV. My feet are up. I don't know if I'm watching TV or I'm sitting there. Right. I got an open bottle of booze next to me on the coffee table, and I pick it up and I put it in my lap. So I didn't have to bend over to go get it.
Right.
And I sat there, and it had a little bit left in it. I was drinking it, put it down. I had an inch left. I'm like, okay, I'm going to save that for the morning. I'm going to need that in the morning. I stood up, and I looked at it, and I walked away, and it called me. I went back, and I finished it. The morning be damned. I'll figure it out in the morning.
Yep.
I'll deal with it tomorrow. And at that point, I sat there, and I said, that's it. You need help. So I jumped right away. Like 7 months later, I decided that I needed something a little bit more than, so this progressed. It just stayed. I knew I had a problem.
I need help. Let me beat the shit out of myself for about 7 more hours. You know what's funny you say about that shit calling you and you going back and finishing? I remember passing out in my living room with a drink in my hand and passing out for like 45 minutes or an hour, waking up, looking at the drink and finishing it, and then going and making another one. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, this is fucked up. Mm-hmm. It's 3 a.m. I got to go to work the next day, and I just can't stop.
It got to the point where it was in my coffee cup. I was angry. I was miserable. I was very tough to live with, obviously. The wife ended our relationship, which is good for her. I mean, it's good that she removed me from that relationship.
Right.
It was good for everybody involved. And I wasn't loyal. I was loyal to the booze. That was all it was, the booze and the drugs.
So you talk about this experience you had where you realize you need help. 7 months later, what happens?
Okay, so it's about the same. I've been to the hospital 2 or 3 times since then, passing out in the backyard, waking up in the backyard, going to the hospital, not remembering I was in the hospital because I was just so drunk, so dehydrated, passed out in the backyard. I can remember one time the wind was blowing and the trees would creak, and I thought it was Bigfoot. And I was screaming and hollering at the top of my lungs, 3 o'clock in the morning, tell them to be quiet. And it dawned on me like the next day when the wind blew, the trees creaked, and it wasn't Bigfoot.
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 I was pretty depressed. Yeah, I was pretty When I got sober, I realized that. I was like, oh, you know what?
It wasn't Bigfoot after all.
It was the wind.
It was big booze that had come to get me.
So what happened was that I had, they call it, we are relieved of the need to drink. That's relieved of the, whatever it is.
The obsession.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We relieved of the obsession. That really happened. I can pinpoint the spiritual awakening I had. I can pinpoint it to the very second.
Tell us about it.
All right. So one of these episodes, the wife's, so the girlfriend and we're living together, and it's been about a week of me being just drunk, falling down, getting out of the hospital. I think I had just gotten out of the hospital a couple of days before that. And she says to me, we're standing in the kitchen. I can remember exactly. And she says, "Are you ready yet?" And at that point, I didn't know what to say. I mean, it just came out my mouth. I did not anticipate it. It said, this came out my mouth. I said, "I'm ready." And at that point, I felt a warm, big, heavy hand on my right shoulder pressing, like I got you, or pressing down on me, to the point where I looked. I turned my head, I turned my shoulder to see who was behind me. There was nobody there, whether it be my father who passed or whether it be a higher power. But at that point...
So that surrender had that effect
immediate
on you.
effect. I went to so drank for a couple more days until I got a bed in a rehab. I blew a 2.8 when I walked in.
Okay, so you drank before you went, like most people do.
Got to get the last couple in there.
Fucked up on the way.
Got to get tailgating here, you know. Got to get prepped.
So you get there, they do a little detox on you.
Yep, 4 or 5 days detox. Then my body gives out after about 10 days. I end up in the hospital again. You know, I can't breathe. There's no oxygen available at this place, so they sent me to the hospital, and I want to go back. I want to go back to treatment.
Okay.
I don't want to go home.
Yeah.
I want to go back. They drive me home instead. They drive me back to Syracuse. Back to home. Sorry. And I really wanted to stay sober. I at that point, I was scared, and I wanted to be scared. I didn't want to get drunk again. I didn't want to use
And that's
again.
why you didn't want to go home.
That's why I didn't want to go home. I don't think I was ready. Good support. I got home. The girlfriend had cleaned out the whole house. No more booze, no paraphernalia, nothing in the house. Awesome. Right. Really, really good. And then I went to, that was a Tuesday, and I went to an AA meeting on Wednesday. Now, this is during the height of COVID. This is June of 2020, right? Early July 2020. And I went to one meeting. They weren't there. The next night, Wednesday night, I went to a meeting. They weren't there.
Right, I shut down because of COVID, right?
Right. I went to a Thursday. I tried another meeting. They're there.
But the whole time you're not drinking.
I'm not drinking. No.
Oof.
So Thursday, well, I wasn't allowed to have $1 in my pocket.
Oh, okay.
I was given $1. I had no credit cards. I did not have the keys to the car. I did not really have a job. My boss, you know, I wasn't working. I called him up and said, I'm going to rehab. Bye. Click. And
he's like, thank
that's
God.
It. That's it.
I don't have to carry this guy anymore.
That was it. Yeah, that's exactly how it happened. And then...
so you show up Thursday night. There's people there.
There's people there, and you know most of them. So, I didn't raise my hand or anything like that. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue what AA was.
So you hadn't been to a meeting before?
No.
How did you even know about it?
Well, I had been to a meeting. So if I got a DUI 8-9 years, let's see, 4, so it's 12 years ago now. I got a DUI, and the judge and the lawyer said you should go. So I went, and I played with it for a month. Right, I went once a week for a month. I had a 6-pack in the car. Yeah, drink on the way home. I had to go to this outpatient thing, which was dumb because I learned more about drugs than I ever knew. How to smuggle drugs into concerts and how to smuggle them across the state line. And these guys would put it in paint cans. I'm like, oh, who would ever think of that? So, full paint cans in the paint with a Ziploc.
Yeah.
So that's what I learned. And that's what I learned at outpatient at that time around. And I just went back to drinking after that. And between that first meeting and my next meeting, I wrecked a couple cars. I went over my handlebars of my motorcycle at 40 miles an hour. I blew out my lung, my clavicle, my collarbone. I had road rash to the point, became a super bug. I was in bed for a summer, but I didn't stop drinking and using.
So it is a complete shit show.
Man.
In between your first meeting,
which I don't
when
even
you went
consider.
back.
Yeah, I don't consider that. I didn't want to be there. I was just there.
So you walk in Thursday night. You don't raise your hand. But what happens at that meeting?
There's a girl there with white hair, and her first name is a first name that I recognize. Mm-hmm. And I'm kicking myself trying to think it's the same person that I know.
Yeah.
And so I got to go back to find out if it's the same person I know.
Right.
Anonymous, right? Well, I think I know her. And during that time, I was doing outpatient, and I couldn't find a meeting, and I brought that up at one of our outpatient meetings, and one of the other guys that was there in the outpatient said, hey, I know there's a whole bunch of meetings. I said, really? This is COVID. He goes, no, I know there's a whole bunch of meetings. Mm-hmm. So I tagged around with him, and he was my sober buddy, and him and I went to meetings together for months. And broke my heart when he had an episode where he went back out. He came back, though. He's back with us. But that broke my heart. It almost threw me out. It almost put me out. But since then, it's been a solid 4 years, almost 4 years. We're consecutive.
Right.
I've been pretty successful with that.
Mm-hmm. What do you attribute that success to?
Well, the relief was I go every night. I go to a meeting every night. I go to different groups. I circulate to percolate. I joined this traveling circus of people
Basement
who went to
dwellers
these
of churches. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So the same bunch of people, like 60% of every meeting you'd see, they'd be at the next meeting.
Yeah.
So, and I followed that circuit for 6 months.
So you really start the fellowship.
Yeah, I
Yep,
get
and
involved
you
with
start making
service.
connections. Service.
The first time they gave me a key to a church, I was floored. I was absolutely floored.
Yeah, you were like, are you sure you want to do this?
Really?
You're trusting me with a key to the church? It's like, wow, that was great. And that really made me feel good. That really, really put me on a good course because I knew I was healing at that point. I knew I was getting better. They're trusting me. And
so how did this take shape? I mean, did you went to some meetings, you start circulating to these meetings and hanging out with a group of kind of the same people. Do you get a sponsor?
in the beginning, let's see. No, I didn't have a sponsor. I went just over a year without a sponsor. And
Really?
And I brought that up to somebody in one of the meetings. And I've worked the steps. And so I'm in a year and a half. I haven't worked the steps. I don't have a sponsor, but I'm going to meetings. I'm sober. I'm going to do it on my own. That ego of mine tell me, you can do this.
Sure.
You can do this.
Right.
You got it. You've always done everything on your own all your life. You can do this. And so I actually got a sponsor, and this guy was good.
What made you get a sponsor?
The fact that they talk about it all the time. And
You're like, Jesus, maybe they know something.
maybe I'm supposed to be doing this. This is, this is a good thing. And it was a very good thing because we read the book. I mean, I had the book. I didn't read the book. I had it. It's just like my textbooks, right? You sleep on them. That's how you, osmosis.
Right. Yes.
Economics through osmosis.
Right. What about the big book? I got one.
Yeah, I got one.
Have you ever opened it? No. But I got it.
I think I know where it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you
this guy
start-
took me through the book, page 1. We started right at the preambles, and we started very, very first page. And there was characters out there. So what's on the first page, Steve? And I got it wrong every time because I'm lying, right? We're trying to, and so that's a good one for your audience. Go look it up. Write it down first. What's on the first
what's on the
page?
first page?
What's on the first page? Write it down
It's on
first.
page 1, huh?
Yeah, write it down.
So
And
you go through, you start going through the big, start working the steps?
yeah, I get through steps 1, 2, and 3. I have to bring. There's an issue with this sponsor, this guy, and I bring it up to my counselor. Brett and I don't.
It's okay.
Brett and I share the same counselor. It's just amazing counselor.
Ugh.
We both have the same opinion, high level opinion. We're both sober. There you go.
If you're listening ever, we love the hell out of you.
And so, where was I?
You were talking about the sponsor, and you had a problem with this.
Oh yeah, I had a little sponsor. I brought it to my counselor. She said, God puts people in our way. She puts people in our path. She also removes people in our path for a reason. So just don't worry about it. Move on. And I pick up another sponsor, and he gets me through steps 4, 5, 6, and 7. We're still tight to this day. He still calls. I call him. And then I moved down. I was like, it's just like another level, another higher playing field that I'm looking for out of steps 6. So I'm looking for something out of step 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm looking for a higher meaning of everything. So I pick out a guy who's got 30-some years, who really has a great message all the time, and I kind of lean on him. And, we go to these men's retreats out in the woods. Like, we go out in the woods with all these 20, 30 guys, and we talk about recovery for the weekend. And it's,
that's an interesting part of your story to me is that don't be afraid to change sponsors if you feel like you can get something more out of a different person. And it's no slap in the face. Like you said, that one sponsor got you through 1, 2, and 3. Another
great.
one got you through 4, 5, and 6. And that's all okay. And, it's not an insult. It's just that
because I know I certainly don't have everything perfect, and somebody has an experience that I don't have,
and
right?
so the fact that you found a really good fit for what you needed is great. And like you said, your higher power puts these people in your path, and then it's up to you to make the move.
Right.
So you made the move and it worked.
It was hard enough asking somebody to be a sponsor,
right.
let alone 3 times.
Right.
Asking them on the
But I don't think I made any mistakes along the way. I think, sure, I've made some enemies, and I made my amends. I'm very good at making amends. 10th step and me are very close. I tend to shoot from the hip. My mouth runs without my brain thinking. I hurt people's feelings.
But you go back and make amends.
I have
and
to
that
go
is
back.
growth.
And if I don't, I feel awful. I just, I know I goofed up right away, and I got to take care of it right away because I know when I goof up and I don't make it right away,
you suffer.
It eats me up.
Mm-hmm. And that's
for a
something
week
you
or
learned
2
through
weeks.
the stops.
My first sponsor, there was a young lady walk up the stairs, and I was an innocent joke. My flashlight on my phone was on, right? And she notices it. And she says, "Hey, Steve, your flashlight's on in your pocket." I said, "Oh, the more the better to see you, my dear." I thought that was pretty innocent, right? Because it's a reference to the Big Bad Wolf, right?
Yeah.
Well, my sponsor he took offense to that. He didn't like that. And he pulled me aside later, and he said, you got to make amends. So I don't know when I'm going to see her again.
Yeah.
So now it's almost a month I haven't seen her. Finally, I was able to make amends.
What was
but
her
during
reaction?
that month,
What was your reaction to your...
I don't know. She didn't even hardly remember
She's
it.
like, what are you talking about?
Didn't even remember.
What,
She
you out
goes,
of your
"Don't worry
mind?"
about it. It didn't bother her, you know."
Yeah.
And so, but during that month, it was tough. It was very, very tough.
Yeah.
I had to do it, and so now I enjoy working with like my brother. Okay, he was my wingman. Him and I got arrested plenty of times. We got in a lot of fights together against other people. The stories that we could tell, we could write a book, and I don't want to glorify the past at all, and I don't want to glorify drinking, but there's so many
Crazy stories.
Heck yeah.
just obnoxious.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah. So, how does your brother get sober? Now you've got years, right?
I had about 2.5 years, 3 years, right? I did about 3 years.
Yeah.
He said he's got 10 months.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got about 3 years, and I watch it. Oh, so we're at a family get together. My mother's birthday. We're all down in Nashville, fancy restaurant, right? And I'm sober at this point. It's probably one of my first family functions, with the booze flowing and the dinner and the dancing. And I watched my brother. I just watched him. It was just the whole weekend I watched him. And then, we had some quiet time, and I said, if you're ready, Mark, let me know when you're ready. Because he was impressed, right? "I love you, man. I love you, man."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, how you do this? You're so good. This is great for you. You're good." Blah, blah, blah.
The attraction.
And so I said, "Well, when you're ready, let me know."
Yeah.
And we just those kind of hints over the next year or so. And he had an episode that put him on the straight and narrow.
Okay. So
Which
he had
an episode which scared him enough.
Yeah. That he decided it was time.
And he knew where to go.
He came, yeah. And we talked about the big book. In fact, we probably talked for 2 or 3 weeks daily until he actually went to a meeting, I'm pretty sure.
So he's in a different city.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's in a whole different city. We still text in the morning. I send him my readings, or him and I are a lot alike, so we can.
So you're not sending pictures of defrosting beers and
No,
stuff
not
like
anymore.
that.
No, I'm sending things like.
Interesting.
I'm sending things like, what was it
Daily
today?
reflection or...
Daily reflections. And today I just sent him something. I said, my opinion of me is only mine. What anybody else thinks of me is not mine. That's theirs.
Right.
And if I let their opinion of me affect me, I become a slave to them. Yeah. They run me. They control me. And I said, that's the situation he was in today. And I just told him, I said, let that sink in.
Yeah.
He'll figure it out. He'll call me tomorrow. How'd you know?
What other people think of me is none of my business.
Right.
It's one of my favorite lines. I love
mine
that.
too. And so, what Brett is saying is true. A lot of times it's just the attraction of somebody that you're close to, that you drank with, seeing you sober, and they start thinking to themselves, this way of life is pretty shitty. I wish I could do something about it.
And you weren't dictating orders to him, and you need to do this, and you need to do that. You weren't doing that. You were just,
we were taught in the
those
rooms.
little things, I'm here.
We were taught in the rooms. I heard everybody's story. I'm here when you're ready. I'll be here. And I've heard the stories of. We talk about attraction rather than promotion, right? And I think I'm doing better because my family likes me more, right? My in-laws like me. My ex talks to me again.
Yeah.
You have a good relationship with the kids, the grown kids.
It could be better.
Yeah.
It could be better. I mean, could have been a much better father.
Yeah, alcohol does take that away.
So I think they're in their right. They're adults. I can't tell them what to do or how to think anymore. They'll come around.
Yeah.
I can call 2 of them.
Yeah.
What about sponsorship and working with new people?
So I don't know, low opinion of myself. I just don't think that maybe I don't have what it takes, right, to be a sponsor. So I'll say, yeah, I'll be your temporary sponsor. You know, I'll work with you until I try to sit down with them with the book and stuff like that. And that's usually when I start shying off, try to make an appointment. Sit down. Let's make an appointment. Sit down and start going through the book. And they tend to shy away, and it tends to get canceled. Calling sick.
Can't make it Tuesday. Maybe next Tuesday.
Yeah. Yep. And
if it makes you feel any better, I've had that happen to me plenty of times too.
I've only had a couple opportunities, and they're still both sober, so we'll see.
You're very big on service work, though, right?
Always have been. Yeah. When they gave me the key to the church, I was the coffee maker at that time, and I was setting everything up, and at that point, I had been chairing a few meetings, and I basically was our Thursday night group, and I basically got to the point where I was running the show, right?
Yeah. Can I just step in for a second? I
Yep.
just want to say one thing. We've never had a guest talk about service. Mm-hmm. And so, for me, when I first came in and my sponsor talked about service work, I'm thinking to myself, how the hell is making coffee going to help me get sober? Or I'm not going to learn anything from this. I'm just making coffee.
No, but it put me in the spotlight. He's the coffee maker. I felt good about myself. One of my first meetings down on James Street was I'm sitting there and all I could think about, when do I get to sit up front like that? One of my first
meeting.
My
That's
very
so funny.
When do I get to sit up there?
I want to chair a
Where's
meeting.
all this money going?
I've been coming here for 2 days. When do I get to chair a
Wait till
meeting?
they hear me.
I'm going to be up in front. I'm going to call on people.
The worst part, when I finally hit the bottom was, it was great. It was funny. It was COVID, right? And here we are. We all get laid off. The whole world gets laid off.
Yeah.
They laid me off.
Holy
I was
shit. Don't they know
so
who you are?
Pissed. Exactly. I'm like, I hope the governor gets stuck in an elevator.
Just for the listeners out there, Steve is in the elevator business. Yeah. In fact, I'm sure if you've been around the rooms for any length of time, there's a lot of people with the same name. And so you get like a moniker attached to you. Yeah. There's like Grateful Heart. There's a guy that always says a Grateful Heart will never drink. He's known as Grateful Heart Steve. Yeah. Well, this is Elevator Steve.
Yeah. That's right.
Elevator Steve. But if you're from the outside, you're like, Elevator Steve? What the hell does that even mean? Steve, Elevator Steve.
Yeah.
And
so they laid me off. And it was like, I was really, really shocked at me personally, that it could happen to me.
Son of a...
The whole world is having troubles, but it was all about me. And that's... And they let the liquor stores open, and they let me home for 6 weeks by myself because they're working. She's working. I'm home by myself. Liquor stores are open. I got a raise from the state. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Hey, so this whole service thing, what can you talk about some of the unseen benefits of service work?
So it made a commitment to myself that I had to be there. So if I let someone down, right? So that held me accountable a little bit. Accountability. Nothing worse than having a coffee maker not show up and then everybody's looking for their coffee, right?
Right.
Pitchforks and torches if you're not.
It happens.
Yeah. And then you're labeled as a dick.
Yeah. And then if your coffee maker shows up late, I'm jumping in, right? And I'm the guy who's growing up getting the basket and handing out the readings, picking the readings up. I just got to be involved because I want people to see me. When my first year in AA was all about, hey, look at me. Look at me picking up the papers. Look at me running around with the basket. That's all it was.
Can you please pat me on the back?
Wait. So I got the chair my first time. I'm like, wow, check this out.
But, I know that for a lot of people, myself included, when I started doing something, when I came in back in the day, people smoked. And I went to this meeting on a regular basis, and it was a Wednesday night meeting. And at one point, the guy who was the group secretary said, hey, we need somebody to clear out the ashtrays at the end of the meeting. I'm going to ask you to do that. And I was like, okay. I'm like, son of a bitch. I didn't smoke. But I'm like, okay, fine. So I started emptying the ashtrays. And then it was like, hey, can you set up for the meeting? And back in the day, people used to bring in their papers to get stamped. Mm-hmm. The court would order them. So I'd get the stamp out, and I'd sit there, and he'd go, you're going to stamp the papers. I'm like, okay. And then things went on, and eventually goes, I'm stepping down as group secretary. You're going to be group secretary. And I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for all that. And he's like, you're basically doing everything now, idiot.
I'm sitting next to the person right now that did all that to me.
Yeah. And you know what? There's nothing to it. It certainly is simple, but you have to be accountable. You have to show up. And it also gets you to talk to people you don't know. and that's the big thing is you make these little connections. I know for myself when I first came in, there's a few people that came out and shook my hand and said, I'm, whatever, I'm Steve.
A greeter.
Just anybody, a greeter especially, but yeah, I mean anybody. And that the next time I came in, I kind of looked for him.
Oh, yeah, you did.
And then I would walk up and go, hey, Steve, how's it going? You know what I mean? And so you can't underestimate the importance of just putting out your hand to a newcomer and saying,
well, I'll
hello.
tell you from my personal experience, that was one of the most beneficial things early in my sobriety when Steve said, you look like we need a coffee maker, and I think you're going to be great at it. You need to do it more like. And
I didn't want to do it anymore.
yeah, well,
I was chairing meetings, and I had the control of the money, and I wanted to audit the money. Right?
Yeah, we're moving on to bigger things.
Yeah, I'm going to audit this group.
Yeah.
And I did, and I audited it, and Brett filled in with the coffee making, and then I went on to GSR work.
Yeah.
Brett jumped in and took over where the hole I left. And so between the two of us, we kind of run the show. And
another aspect of that too is like when I was group secretary of this group, it just happened to be at a time when the church kicked us out. There was some wine missing from the sacristy.
Wasn't me.
Steve.
Well, here's the interesting thing is they called me up and they said, yeah, there's some wine missing. We know you're the alcoholics.
Right.
You are not welcome here anymore. And I'm like, I can guarantee you it wasn't one of us. If we wanted alcohol, we would just go buy it. They go, well, I don't think so. And so they booted us. And so I was responsible for finding a new place. Mm-hmm. And I did. And then later on, I heard from someone who said, yeah, there was a group of Down syndrome kids that met there the same night you did in a different room. And they actually ended up confessing to doing it. The church never called me back and said, gee, sorry about that. Nothing like that. But it did come to a point where I thought to myself, all right, so I've been doing this for 2 years. I'm going to step aside, and I'm going to let somebody else experience this.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot of work, but I'm like, you know what? I need to get out of the way and let somebody else do it.
I'm so glad that happened.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, it helped me. And, I went on to start meetings, from scratch. And one of them that I started.
Podcasts.
I ended up just getting out of the way. I did it for a few years, and I stepped out. I stepped away.
Yep.
And my work here is done,
Right.
But it is important to let other people have service work, and nobody volunteers for it. Like like what you did with Brett. You're going to do this.
And I did with
basically.
Jason, and Jason's doing with another guy now.
Right. So it's important to pass that along,
And it's good. It gets them involved. It makes them accountable. Made me accountable. So the journey's been good. It's been really good. My life is good. I'm very happy. My ego's in check.
We had a guest on that said, I lead an ordinary life.
Yeah.
And who knew that that's what I really wanted.
I'm an average Joe.
Yeah.
I'm just an average Joe. I cut the grass on the weekends. I tend my flowers. I don't travel anymore. I don't drive a BMW anymore. I don't have a ton of money anymore.
Really good cook.
So I enjoy the kitchen and I enjoy the garden and, I'll make a good wife someday.
life beyond your wildest dreams, right?
It is. It just really is. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, you used to have to chase the concerts and chase the travel and chase the Vegas.
Right.
And
We're
New
always
Orleans.
chasing something, weren't we?
Oh yeah. Now I have no.
It's exhausting.
No inkling to go out drinking.
Much.
I'm still scared of bars. I'm still scared. That's why I don't go out to
Probably
you
a
guys.
healthy fear, though.
I think so.
Yeah, it's still a little bit leery of going into a bar. I'll go in. I won't sit at the bar. I won't stand next to the bar. I'll go to the back of the if it's a restaurant, they have tables. That's fine. I can deal with that.
Yeah.
But I don't. If it's just a bar setting, like a band in a bar and dancing, it's like, it's not my gig anymore.
Yep, I get that. Well, it's been great having you on, Steve, and hearing your story. And, you are the first guest that's talked about service work, and I think that's
awesome.
important. So
It's been a big part of my thing. And,
yeah.
So what my higher powers give me blessings, and I've been blessed with, real quick, before I got sober, 5 years ago, baby was born, and 5 years ago she was born, and I was not allowed to hold her for the first year, 18 months. They wouldn't let me alone in the same room. They wouldn't let me hold her. She can't drive in a car with me if I'm driving. And here we go. Now it all comes back full circle. This young lady lives in my house 24/7 with us. We're raising her now, and the judge said, you guys are better off. So this is the higher power working for me, right?
Yeah.
This is where I was, and now this is the blessing I've gotten. Maybe I can do it right this time. That's all.
It works if you work it.
It works if you work it.
All right. Well, until next time, I'm Mark.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Steve.
As we wrap up another episode of the Glum Lot Podcast, we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you who tuned in today. Navigating the path to recovery from alcohol and other substances is a journey filled with challenges, triumphs, and self-discovery. Remember, we're not affiliated with Alcoholics Anonymous, but we're here to provide a safe space for open conversations about the complexities of recovery. Your stories, courage, and resilience inspire us and our listeners alike. If you or someone you know is on the transformative journey, know that you're not alone. Join us next time as we continue to explore the diverse facets of recovery. Until then, stay strong, stay connected, and remember that each day is a step towards a brighter, sober tomorrow. Thank you for being part of the Glum Lot community.